I never believed Christmas was magical. To me, it was just another cold night where the city pretended to be kind. Lights hung from buildings like borrowed joy. Music spilled from stores I couldn't afford to enter. People smiled wider than usual, as if smiling could erase everything waiting for them at home. I walked faster, pulling my coat tighter around my thin frame. Snow dusted the sidewalks, crunching under my worn shoes. My hands were numb, clutching a small paper bag with bread and soup. The kind of dinner you eat standing up, because sitting down makes it feel too real. I was halfway across the street when my phone vibrated. I almost ignored it. Nobody called me. Not on Christmas Eve. Not ever. But something made me stop. The number was unfamiliar. Hospital coded. I answered before I could talk myself out of it. Hello, is this Elias Moore? A woman asked, her voice tight with urgency. Yes, I said slowly. This is St. Gabriel Medical Center. You're registered as an emergency blood donor. We have an alpha patient in critical condition. His blood type is extremely rare. You're a match. I swallowed. An alpha? Yes. He's dying. That word hit harder than I expected. Dying. I'm an omega, I said. Are you sure? We are, she replied. But I need to be honest with you. This isn't a normal donation. His body is rejecting synthetic blood. Your blood may be the only thing that keeps him alive. My heart began to pound. Omegas donating to alphas wasn't illegal, but it was dangerous. Blood carried more than cells. It carried scent, memory, sometimes instinct, sometimes bonds. I can't promise it will be safe, she added quietly. I looked around. Couples, families, warmth everywhere except where I stood. How long does he have? I asked. There was a pause. Minutes. I closed my eyes. Send me the address, I said. The hospital was quieter than I expected. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that presses against your ears and reminds you that life slips away here every day. They rushed me through hallways without letting me think. A nurse wrapped a bracelet around my wrist, her fingers trembling slightly. You're very brave, she said. I didn't feel brave. I felt like I was already falling. They led me into a private room deep in the restricted wing. The air smelled sharp, antiseptic, and something darker beneath it. Something burned. Alpha scent. It hit me the moment the door opened. Smoke and pine. Strong. Broken. Fading. He lay on the bed, surrounded by machines. Tubes ran into his arms, his chest, his neck. His breathing was shallow, uneven. His face was pale, but still striking. Sharp jaw, dark lashes, brows drawn tight even in unconsciousness. This was Dave. The dying alpha. He didn't look powerful. He looked abandoned. I stepped closer without meaning to. My omega instincts stirred uneasily, confused by the weakness radiating from someone who should have been dominant. What happened to him? I asked. Attack, the nurse said. Internal injuries. He's been fighting for hours. I stared at his hand resting on the sheet. Big. Scarred. Strong even now. Will he know? I asked softly. That it was me? She hesitated. Alphas remember blood, she said. That should have scared me. Instead, something in my chest tightened. They sat me beside him and prepared the transfusion. I rolled up my sleeve, my skin pale against the stark white room. The needle slid in, sharp and cold. I hissed, fingers curling. The line connected us. Me. To him. The moment my blood began to flow, everything changed. Heat rushed through my body, sudden and intense. My breath hitched. The room felt too small, too close. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might break my ribs. My scent spiked. Fear. Sweetness. Omega panic flooding the air. And then, Dave gasped. His body jerked violently. Monitors screamed. Nurses shouted. His eyes flew open. Gold. Bright, burning gold locked directly onto me. For one terrifying second, I couldn't breathe. You, he rasped, his voice rough and broken. The word felt like a command. Pain exploded behind my eyes. Something snapped inside my chest, sharp and invisible, like a cord pulled too tight. I felt him. Not his body. Him. Fear. Rage. Desperation. Loneliness so deep it made my throat ache. Oh no, the nurse whispered. Stop the transfusion now. But it was too late. Dave's hand shot out, gripping my wrist with surprising strength. His touch burned. Don't, he said hoarsely. Don't leave. The world tilted. I tried to speak, to tell him I wasn't leaving, that I was right here, but my vision blurred. My body felt heavy, drained too fast. I collapsed forward, barely catching myself on the edge of the bed. "Elias!" someone shouted. Strong arms caught me before I hit the floor. Darkness swallowed me whole. I woke up to silence. Soft, thick silence, broken only by the slow beeping of a heart monitor. For a moment, I didn't know where I was. Then my arm throbbed and memory came crashing back. Hospital. Blood. Him. I pushed myself up, dizzy. Dave was sitting up in bed. Alive. Color had returned to his face. His breathing was steady. His eyes, still gold, were fixed on me. The room smelled different now. Balanced. Connected. The doctor stood between us, his face pale. "There's been a complication," he said carefully. Dave didn't look at him. He didn't blink. "What did you do to him?" Dave asked. My heart dropped. Nothing," I said quickly. "I just donated blood." "I didn't know." The doctor cleared his throat. "Your blood triggered a rare phenomenon. A blood bond. It happens when an alpha is near death and receives omega blood without suppressants." Dave finally looked away from me, jaw tightening. "A bond," he repeated. I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean." "I know," he said sharply. But even as he spoke, I felt something else. Relief. Warmth. Awareness. Like a second heartbeat echoing inside me. The doctor continued. "The bond appears stable for now. But it's irreversible." The word echoed. Irreversible. Dave looked back at me. Slowly. His expression wasn't anger. It was fear. And something deeper. Something that mirrored the ache in my chest. "You saved my life," he said quietly. My throat tightened. "I didn't mean to bind you," I whispered. He studied me for a long moment, then said something that sent a shiver through my bones. "Neither did I," he said. "But now, I can feel you." I felt it too. The truth settling between us like falling snow. Christmas lights flickered outside the window. And I realized with sudden, terrifying clarity, that night didn't just change his fate. It changed mine. I didn't leave the hospital. I told myself it was because the doctors asked me to stay for observation. That my blood levels were low. That my body needed rest. But the truth was simpler and harder. Every time I took more than 3 steps away from Dave's room, my chest tightened until breathing hurt. The bond didn't pull gently. It demanded. I sat on the narrow couch across from his bed, knees drawn to my chest, staring at the floor while nurses came and went. Every sound felt louder than it should have been. Every movement tugged at something inside me. I could feel him. Not thoughts. Not words. Just presence. Like standing too close to a fire. You don't touch it, but it still warms your skin. Dave was quiet. Too quiet. When I finally dared to look up, I found him watching me. Not openly. Carefully. Like I might disappear if he blinked. "I didn't ask for this," he said suddenly. His voice wasn't harsh. That made it worse. "I know," I replied, my fingers curling into my sleeves. I didn't either. Silence stretched between us. I could feel his heartbeat through the bond. Strong. Steady. Alive. A sharp pang of relief hit me so suddenly my eyes burned. He noticed. His brow furrowed. "You're feeling things I'm not saying, aren't you?" I hesitated. Then nodded. "Not exactly. It's more like echoes." He exhaled slowly. "That's dangerous. For both of us," I whispered. The door opened, and a doctor stepped in with a tablet. "Alpha Dave, we need to discuss post-bond protocol." Dave stiffened. I felt it instantly. Anger. Fear. A spike of instinct so sharp it made my stomach twist. "Protocol?" Dave repeated. The doctor glanced at me. "The Omega should hear this too." I shrank back slightly, but Dave surprised me by saying, "He stays." The word stays settled deep in my chest. "The bond you've formed isn't a traditional mating bond," the doctor explained. "It's a blood bond. Rare, unstable, and extremely sensitive." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means," he said carefully, "that your emotional states affect each other. Strong distress, fear, or physical harm to either of you could trigger dangerous feedback." Dave's jaw clenched. "So if he panics," Dave said, "I lose control." "And if you're injured," the doctor added, "his body may respond as if it's happening to him." I swallowed hard. "That's not fair," I whispered. "No," Dave agreed quietly. "It isn't." The doctor continued. "Until we're sure the bond stabilizes, you'll need to remain within close proximity. Suppressants are risky in cases like this." Dave laughed humorlessly. "Of course they are. The doctor left soon after, the door clicking shut behind him. I stared at my hands. I can leave if you want, I said quickly. I don't want to be a problem. The Bond flared. Sharp. Immediate. Dave sucked in a breath, eyes flashing. Don't say that. I looked up, startled. I didn't mean. I know what you meant, he interrupted, voice tight. And it felt like you were tearing something out of me. My breath caught. I'm sorry, I whispered. He dragged a hand through his hair. Stop apologizing for existing. I froze. Nobody had ever said that to me before. Hours passed strangely after that. Dave slept. I dozed lightly, waking every time his breathing changed. When he shifted in pain, my chest ached. When I grew anxious, his heart rate spiked. We were learning each other the hard way. Late that night, I went to the vending machine down the hall. I barely made it 10 steps before dizziness hit me like a wave. My knees buckled. Strong arms caught me instantly. Dave. He shouldn't have been out of bed. What are you doing? I gasped. You moved too far, he said, breathless. It felt like something snapped. Guilt crashed over me. I just wanted water. He steadied me, his hands warm through my thin clothes. For a moment, neither of us moved. The Bond hummed. Not frantic. Just aware. Lean on me, he said quietly. I did. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel weak for it. Back in the room, Dave sat on the edge of the bed while I sipped water. You should hate me, I said softly. He looked at me, eyes dark. I should. But you don't, I said. He was quiet for a long time. I hate the situation, he said finally. I hate losing control. I hate that my life now revolves around someone I didn't choose. My chest tightened. But, I asked. But when I died, he continued, voice rough, you were the last thing I felt. I looked at him. Not pain, he said. Not fear. Warmth. The word wrapped around my heart like a promise I didn't know how to keep. There's something else, he added. My stomach dropped. What? When another alpha walked past you earlier, Dave said slowly. I nearly tore the 4 out of my arm. My pulse spiked. That's not normal, he said. That's instinct. Fear crept in. You won't hurt me, will you? He stared at me, horrified. Never. The Bond surged, strong, reassuring, absolute. I believed him. And that scared me more than anything. Because trust had always been the most dangerous thing of all. Outside the window, snow fell silently. Christmas night slipping away. And somewhere deep inside me, I knew. This bond wasn't fading. It was settling in. 3 days passed after that night. Only 3. But it felt longer than any year I had lived before. The hospital discharged Dave on the 4th morning after the bond formed. Not because he was fully healed, but because the board didn't want him there anymore. Too many questions. Too many restricted files. Too many people whispering when they thought I couldn't hear. The moment the doctor signed the release papers, a strange pressure settled in my chest. The bond reacting. Change always did that. Dave noticed immediately. He glanced at me across the room, eyes narrowing slightly. You okay? I nodded, even though my heart was racing. Just dizzy. That wasn't a lie. Ever since the bond, my body reacted to his movements like it was trying to stay one step ahead of him. When he stood, I felt it. When he winced in pain, my ribs ached. When he breathed too fast, my lungs followed. We rode down the elevator together in silence. The doors closed softly, sealing us into a mirrored box that reflected just how strange we looked together. Him tall and broad, leaning on a cane he clearly hated, and me hovering at his side like I wasn't sure where I was allowed to stand. The bond hummed. Low. Steady. Watchful. Don't disappear, Dave said suddenly. I turned to him. What? When those doors open, he clarified, eyes forward. Don't step away from me without warning. My throat tightened. I wasn't planning to. Good. The elevator opened. The world rushed back in all at once. Outside, everything felt louder. Brighter. Sharper. Cars honked. People talked. Life moved forward without caring that something fragile had just been stitched together inside my chest. Dave stiffened beside me. His alpha instincts flared, not aggressive but alert. Protective. I felt it immediately. A rush of heat, followed by a strange calm, like my body trusted his reaction more than my own. That scared me. The driver opened the car door. Dave paused, then glanced down at me. You'll stay with me, he said. Not a question. Until the doctors say it's safe, I replied quickly. His jaw flexed. Until I say it's safe. The bond pulsed. Agreement. I hated that part of myself that responded so easily. Dave's apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the city, lights blinking like distant stars. The place smelled faintly of him, clean, sharp, controlled. Alpha territory. My Omega instincts curled inward, uncertain. "You can take the guest room," he said, shrugging off his coat. "Door stays unlocked." I nodded. Of course. I unpacked the little I owned while he disappeared into the kitchen. My hands shook as I folded my clothes into the dresser. Everything felt temporary, like I wasn't supposed to settle too deeply. That night, I woke up gasping. The bond burned hot, sharp enough to drag me from sleep. Fear slammed into my chest, not mine. Dave's. I stumbled out of bed and down the hall, heart pounding. He was sitting on the edge of his bed, shoulders hunched, breathing hard. Sweat soaked through his shirt. "Dave," I whispered. His head snapped up. Gold flickered faintly in his eyes. "Don't come closer," he said through clenched teeth. I stopped, but the bond didn't. It pulled. My chest hurt, breath coming too fast. "You're in pain." "Yes," he growled. "And I don't like what the bond does to me when I am." I swallowed. "What does it do?" He laughed harshly. "It makes me want to drag you into my arms and make sure you're real." Heat rushed to my face. The bond surged, not hunger, not desire. Need. "I'm not afraid," I said softly. That was a lie. But I took one step closer anyway. His breath stuttered. I felt the moment his control cracked, not violently, not dangerously, just enough to let me in. I sat beside him. The pain eased. For both of us. He exhaled slowly, shoulders dropping. "This isn't fair to you." "Neither was letting you die," I replied quietly. He looked at me then, not as an alpha, not as a bonded instinct, but as a man who had been alone for too long. "Elias," he said, my name heavy on his tongue. "If this bond turns ugly, I won't forgive myself." I met his gaze. "If it turns beautiful, will you run from it?" Silence stretched. The bond waited. Dave looked away first. "Sleep," he said hoarsely. "Stay close." I lay down beside him, not touching, not crossing lines, but close enough that the bond settled into something warm and steady. Outside, the city breathed. Inside, something fragile took its first real shape. And I knew. These few days were only the beginning. I noticed it in the morning. Not all at once. Not like something breaking, but like a sound slowly disappearing until you realize the room has gone quiet. I woke up before Dave did. The city light filtered through the curtains, pale and gray. For a moment, I lay there, still and listening, not with my ears, but with the part of me that had been listening for weeks. The bond was always there when I woke up. A warmth in my chest. A steady awareness. Dave's presence like gravity. This morning, nothing. My breath caught. I shifted slightly, waiting for the familiar tug. The echo of his heartbeat. The sense of him just beneath my skin. Silence. Panic rose fast and sharp. I sat up, pressing a hand to my chest like I could force the bond to respond. Nothing answered. "Dave," I whispered. He stirred beside me, blinking awake. "What's wrong?" My voice shook. "I can't feel you." The words landed between us like glass. He froze. Slowly, carefully, he closed his eyes. His brow furrowed in concentration. I watched his throat move as he swallowed. Then his eyes opened. Something in them had changed. "I don't feel you either," he said quietly. The fear I expected didn't come from him. Relief did. And that scared me more than panic ever could. The hospital confirmed it that afternoon. The doctors ran tests, monitored our vitals, watched us like we were fragile artifacts instead of people. "The blood bond is dissolving," the lead physician said. "This was always a possibility." "Dissolving," Dave repeated. "Yes. Blood bonds formed under extreme trauma often stabilize temporarily and then fade as the body recovers." I stared at the floor. "So that's it." "It means," the doctor said gently, "that the instinctive pull will continue to weaken. You're no longer bound by biology." I laughed softly. It came out wrong. Dave didn't speak. "You're free," the doctor added. "Both of you. Free." The word echoed the same way irreversible once had. But this time, it didn't feel like relief. The drive home was quiet. Not tense. Just empty. I stared out the window while Dave drove, the city blurring past in soft colors. I waited for the ache in my chest when he focused on the road instead of me. It never came. That hurt more than I expected. "So," I said finally, "I guess I should start parking." Dave's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "You don't have to rush." "I don't want to overstay," I replied. "You were never overstaying." I looked at him then. Really looked. Without the bond whispering emotions into my chest, I had to rely on his face alone. His jaw was tight. His eyes dark. Controlled. Closed off. Back at the apartment, I packed quietly. Folding clothes felt heavier than it should have. Every sound echoed too loud in the room. This time, when I stepped away from him, nothing pulled me back. The door clicked softly behind me as I carried my bag into the hallway. Dave stood there, watching. The bond didn't react. But he did. "Elias," he said. I stopped. He walked toward me slowly, like he wasn't sure I wouldn't disappear if he moved too fast. "This is the part," he said, voice low, "where I'm supposed to let you go." My chest tightened. "Because the bond is gone?" "Yes." I nodded. "That makes sense." He exhaled sharply. "I hate that it does." Silence stretched. No instincts. No invisible strings. Just two people standing in a quiet apartment, choosing whether to speak or stay silent. "I won't stop you," Dave said. "You don't owe me anything anymore." I swallowed. "And you don't owe me either." "No," he agreed. "I don't." He hesitated. "But I want you to stay." The words hit harder than any bond ever had. I stared at him. "Why?" "Because when the bond was there," he said slowly, "I kept wondering how much of what I felt was real." My heart pounded. "And now?" I asked. "Now it's quiet," he said. "And I still don't want you to leave." Tears burned my eyes. "This would be different," I said. "No instincts. No safety net." "I know," he replied. "I'd have to choose you every day." My voice broke. "And I'd have to believe you mean it." He stepped closer. Careful. Not claiming. Not pulling. Just offering. "I won't ask you to stay because of what we were forced into," Dave said. "I'm asking because of who you are." I searched his face. There was no bond to guide me. Only trust. "I'm scared," I admitted. "So am I," he said. "But for the first time, it's a good kind." I set my bag down slowly. Not because something pulled me, but because I wanted to. "I'll stay," I said. "But not as something you saved." His breath hitched. "Stay as someone I choose," I finished. "And someone who chooses you back." Dave nodded once. Then carefully he reached for my hand. No spark. No instinctive surge. Just warmth. And somehow, that meant everything. It's snowing again. Not the heavy, dramatic kind that shuts the city down. Just soft flakes drifting slowly from the sky, like they're in no hurry to land. Christmas is a week away. I stand by the window of Dave's apartment, our apartment now, watching the lights flicker on across the street. The world feels quieter this year. Not empty. Just settled. Behind me, Dave hums softly as he cooks. He's terrible at it, but he insists. The smell of something slightly burnt mixes with pine from the small tree in the corner of the room. A year ago, I was standing in a hospital hallway, terrified and alone. A year ago, I thought love was something that happened to people, not something they built. Now I know better. "Elias," Dave calls. "If this sets off the smoke alarm, I'm blaming you." I laugh. The sound still surprises me sometimes. "I didn't touch anything," I reply. "You're on your own." He glances over his shoulder at me, eyes warm, unguarded. Not Alpha Gold. Just him. That's my favorite part. The bond never came back. Not even once. There are days when I wake up and feel nothing but my own heartbeat. And instead of panic, there's peace. Dave feels it too. We talked about it early on, late one night when honesty came easier in the dark. "If it came back," he'd said quietly, "I'd be afraid again." I understood. Without the bond, there are no guarantees. Only choices. Every morning, he chooses to make coffee the way I like it, even though he hates how weak it smells. Every night, I choose to stay, even when fear whispers that I could be hurt again. We choose each other in small ways. And that's enough. The smoke alarm does go off, eventually. Dave groans. I rush to open the window, laughing as cold air floods the room. He stands there, sheepish, waving a towel uselessly at the ceiling. "Next year," he says, "we're ordering food." "Next year," I agree. Later, we sit on the couch with blankets pulled around us. His arm rests behind me, not holding, not trapping. Just there if I want it. I lean into him anyway. The city glows outside. Somewhere, carols play faintly through open windows. "You know," I say softly, "if I hadn't answered that call." He tightens his arm just a little. "I wouldn't be here. And I would have kept thinking I didn't matter," I finish. He presses his forehead to my temple. "You always mattered. A year ago, I saved a dying alpha. I thought that was the end of the story. I didn't know it was the beginning of learning how to be chosen. Not by instinct, not by fate, but by someone who wakes up every day and says yes all over again. Outside, snow keeps falling. Inside, we stay. And this time, it's not because we're bound. It's because we want to be.